Okay, we are live.
Okay, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of council for Town of Bancroft for September 14th, 2021. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Just remind everybody to turn off their telephones, etc. And I'll remember to do it as well this time. Land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are gathered on the traditional territory of Indigenous peoples who have been stewards of the land since time immemorial. And as such, we treat the land, its plants, animals, stories, and people with honor and respect. So the singing of O Canada, please. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. So again, good afternoon, welcome everyone. As everyone is aware, the federal election campaign is heading into the home stretch with the official election day being Monday, September 20th. I know many have already used the advanced polls, but I encourage those who have not to cast their ballot on the 20th. On the COVID-19 front, cases in our immediate area remain under control, unlike the situation that is evolving in the Western provinces or even other parts of Ontario. We are already seeing outbreaks that are resulting in some school closures. As the indoor season approaches, the risk of transmission escalates. So I encourage everyone to continue exercising caution and to follow public health guidelines. No one wants to get back into another lockdown situation. On the same vein as the issue of vaccine mandates and vaccines policies, Council will receive a brief staff report on the topic today. We also await a policy currently under development by Hastings County as a potential blueprint for the town of Bancroft. An unfortunate side effect of the pandemic is the troubling stories of protests outside of health facilities across the country and the detrimental effect it's having on some healthcare workers. We need to once again acknowledge the incredible job done by the healthcare community throughout this pandemic and respect the right to do their critical role free of intimidation and request that everyone does the same. Another unforeseen effect of the pandemic has been the shortage of materials and labor that are affecting many segments of the economy. Construction projects in the area are not immune, resulting in a continued shortage in the housing sector. This has exacerbated the already present supply and affordability issue that has driven prices out of the reach of many. The town continues to work with developers to navigate the very cumbersome and expensive process for developments to come to fruition, as an increase in supply is required to bring the market back into a balanced position. The province has committed to streamlining the development process and reducing red tape, although evidence of this occurring is really not visible. The town also continues to engage with Hastings County over the planned shelter transitional housing project. The terms of the funding require completion of this project by March 31st, 2022. So there is much work still to be done in a short period of time. With respect to town-initiated projects, the Community Hub Affordable Housing Complex is still slated to begin construction in the spring with the hope the material supply and pricing will improve. The reconstruction of Hastings Street North throughout the entire downtown is also scheduled to commence in the spring, with planning still underway to determine staging to lessen traffic disruption during the busy summer months. Traffic issues are imminent, and I encourage everyone to visit the town website periodically for updates. Thank you. Adoption of the open session agenda. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the open session agenda dated September 14, 2021 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Tracy McGibbon, seconded by Councillor Miles. All in favor? So passed. Declaration of pecuniary interest and nature thereof. Seeing none. We have no delegations today. Minutes of previous sessions. Be it resolved that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby approved the minutes of the meetings of council held on August 10th, 2021, August 24th, 2021, and September 2nd, 2021 as presented. Can I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Deputy Mayor, and seconded by Councillor Wiggins. Any errors, omissions, comments, or questions on that? Councillor Wiggins.
I have a question on the August 10th meetings, and I'm not sure if it's a question or just a comment. The Lions were going to do a road toll October the 9th. Is that still viable with the way COVID is going? And then the other thing was the status from Perry of the stop blocks that were going to be painted on all our side streets. Are they going to be going now, or will they be going in the spring?
So first, the question of the Lions, and have you heard anything on that one, Amber, from the Lions?
As far as I know, so a letter was sent to the Lions Club giving them authorization, and I believe they're going through with it.
And our letter said COVID dependent, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and what was the date on that again?
9th, October 9th.
I guess we probably need to take a look at it as we get closer to that. You know,
Yes,
sure.
that was my point. I don't want to just fall off the table here.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I see Amber making a note on that. And maybe Perry Kelly, you could answer the second question about the stop blocks. I see Perry's name there, but okay, well, we'll hold that question for when Perry does pop up. Wayne, it's a good question.
Okay.
Anything else from anybody? Seeing none, all in favor, please. So passed. Thank you. Item 8, minutes of standing committees and verbal updates. The first one is Committee of the Whole Committee from 24th of August. The resolution before us is be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby approve of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on August 24th, 2021 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles, and seconded by Councillor Barry McGibbon. Is there any comments or questions on those? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, Councillor Wiggin.
One question. I don't see it in the agenda. Is there something coming forth? This would be for Bill regarding the shipping containers. The plan was to try to bring it for today, I believe.
So
yeah, sorry, it takes me a while to push the buttons. There's a part of it is a public process, and I know that our planning coordinator is, if Robin, you want to maybe just answer that would be great.
Through you, your worship. So as presented at the last meeting, the intention is to hold the public meeting as part of a committee of the whole meeting. There is notice requirements which have to be followed. So the intent was to bring it forward at committee of the whole in October.
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else with anything? Seeing none, all in favor? So passed. Second resolution, be it resolved, the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby sponsor public skating ice time at the North Hastings Community Center in the amount of $200. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles and Councillor Tracy McGibbon. All in favor on that, please? So passed. Thank you. And the last, be it resolved, the council does hereby approve of the vendor of record VOR for the town of Bancroft as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Deputy Mayor, and seconded by Councillor Barry McGibbon. All in favor on that, please? Thank you. Passed. Item 9, minutes of local boards and joint committees. First item up is the Bancroft Business Improvement Area Board of Management. Be it resolved, the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft has hereby received the minutes of the Bancroft Business Improvement Area Board of Management meeting held on July 27, 2021 as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that? Councillor Miles?
I will move for second.
Oh, there you are. I was looking for you, Andrea. And
I'm here.
And seconded by Councillor Miles. Would you like to speak to that, Andrea?
I actually wasn't in attendance at that meeting, but I did follow up and review the minutes. The largest development out of there was the pending meeting with the Parks and Rec manager with regard to the memorandum of understanding, which will be brought forward later today in the meeting. So that was the bulk of that. There was a preliminary discussion about budget, which will also be brought forward for consideration to council here shortly.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on it from anybody on that? Seeing none, all in favor? So passed. Thank you. Next up is the Bancroft North Hastings Heritage Museum. Be it resolved, the Council of the Town of Bancroft has hereby received the minutes of the Bancroft North Hastings Heritage Museum Board meeting held on July 28, 2021 as presented. Could I have a mover on that, please? Councillor Wiggins, seconder, Councillor Tracy McGibbon. So Councillor Wiggins, would you update us on that or anything else to do with the museum that you wish to speak to us about?
The minutes are pretty self-explanatory. There's not a whole lot going on like all the boards right now, but we are open daily from Tuesday and to Saturday from 10 to 4:30. The big one thing we've accomplished just in the last week, which isn't in the minutes, is we now have a debit payment machine, which will assist in visitors be able to hopefully purchase our heritage books, etc. So that'll be a big help for the museum. Other than that, there are a couple of items that in the next meeting, which is always a month behind, but we'll be discussing at the in October.
Thank you. Any questions on that from anybody? Seeing none, all in favor, please. Thank you. So passed. Item 10, unfinished business. First up is North Hastings Community Trust signage request. The resolution before us is be it resolved that Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft does here defer item 10 to the September 21st, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting pending further information. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles and Councillor Barry McGibbon, all in favor, please? Thank you. Item B, Highway Garden Center's signage on property owned by the Town of Bancroft. The motion before us is be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby deny Highway Garden Center permission to install a sign at 68 Hastings Street North. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Barry McGibbon and Deputy Mayor, and I would ask Matt to speak on this, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor Jenkins and members of council. We've had a request brought before us from Ed and Sturgeon to install a sign located at 68 Hastings Street North. This is to direct customers to his new location for the Highway Garden Center, which is currently located at 147 Monk Street. Direction from council in the past has been to phase out billboard signage, that's third-party advertising signage on municipal property. As current businesses leasing the spaces on the billboards choose not to renew the lease space, or the message becomes obsolete, billboard structures are being removed from municipal property. So that's been the direction in the past. Well, the Town of Bancroft sign bylaw 23-216 does not specifically prohibit third-party advertising. The wording in the bylaw would imply that the intent of the bylaw is to approve signage on property where the business is actually being conducted. So obviously this is at council's discretion, just providing information.
Thank you. Is there any comments or questions on that? Councillor Miles.
Sorry, I had to find the button. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I would be in favor, if we're not going to take that great big thing down, to put a sign on it. It looks terrible. It's sort of half empty, half full. Unless we're prepared to completely remove all of it at this time, why wouldn't we at least put something in there that is to the advantage of, one of our local businesses? If it is at our discretion, as described by Matt, thank you, Matt, then I would be in favor of allowing the sign to be there.
So just to comment on that, I believe in the past, and it might even been in the previous term, I think it was decided that once the Life Labs exit the property, that sign should come down, because it is rather unsightly, right now. So my thought on that is, now, since the Life Labs is gone, there's nobody else that's occupying the property that we need signage for, that sign should be removed.
And I don't disagree with that. And then take the whole thing down. Same thing.
And to say that
one or the other
part was supposed to go. So Matt, you want to make a comment on that?
Just a further comment as well, by setting a precedent and allowing additional third-party signage, that would set a precedent throughout the town to allow additional third-party signage around town.
I agree, because, that's a pretty prominent location, and how do you then start to choose? You can't put everybody up on it. So I think the direction should be for, I'm not sure if it would be Parks or Public Works to look at getting that sign removed. But as I say, that was discussed in the past, just was never followed through on it. So Councillor Wiggins, you had a.
I was much like Councillor Miles, that it looks kind of bad there. I think we could assist one of the businessmen in town. He has rented that sign in the past and land from us. Basically moved because of the action that is happening at Block 68. He also agreed that if he was up there and we wanted it moved at any time, he would do that at his cost. So I agree. Either I think send him to him and put a sign on it. It looks good and matches. Either that or remove the sign completely.
So let's, yes, Deputy Mayor.
I had to find the button. I've looked at the sign, and as we all have, I think my preference, especially when, if we give permission for this one, as Matt has said, that sets a precedent, and who knows where the next one someone would want. I think the best idea that we've mentioned, and we've mentioned in the past, is to get rid of that monster right in the middle there, and that would be the simplest thing, I think.
So we'll vote on this resolution, and depending on its outcome, we could follow up with another resolution directing staff to have the sign removed. So first of all, we will vote on this one. So the motion is to deny permission. All in favor of denying permission, please? So passed. Thank you. Would somebody like to make a resolution directing staff to have the sign removed? The sign post. Moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Miles. All in favor on that, please? Passed. Thank you.
I would like to also add that be removed rather quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, item 11, business. Assumption of parts 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 13, Plan 21R, 21835 is common and public highway, Malloy Road. The resolution before us is be it resolved the Council of Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is here hereby assume as common and public highway that part of Law 21, Concession 2, Geographic Township of Dungannon, now Town of Bancroft, County of Hastings, being more particularly described as parts 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 13, Plan 21R-21835. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Barry McGibbon, Councillor Miles, and Robin, our planning coordinator, would you please talk to that?
Good afternoon, Your Worship, councillors, staff, and members of the public. You have the report before you, and as such, the town has been approached by the legal representative of the owners of 49 Malloy Road to accept title and assume as common and public highway the aforementioned lands, which are municipally known as Malloy Road. Malloy Road is a Class 6 highway and is recognized as a forest road as there is no registered conveyance of the road to the municipality. The municipality currently maintains Malloy Road and therefore has a vested interest in the road. The owners also own lands on the south side of the traveled portion of the road. Though the lands are separately assessed, it appears from the property index map attached that the subject lands may only be conveyed as one parcel since the title of the road has never been transferred to the municipality. The plan of survey attached depicts the occupational limit of Malloy Road. And according to the surveyor's reports, the parts depicted on either side of the occupational limit of the road were created for future widenings. Staff advised the owner's legal representative that it would be appropriate for the town to assume the subject parts to provide for the required width of the road, which is 20 meters. However, staff note that part 2 on the plan is currently in separate ownership. By accepting title and assuming as common and public highway, the parcel will be legally recognized as 2 parcels, which may be conveyed separately. The bylaw has been prepared and is presented on today's agenda to be adopted by council. Once the bylaw is adopted, the transfer will be executed and the bylaw will be registered as required at the land registry office. The owners are responsible for all legal fees. That completes my report. Staff do recommend accepting title and assuming, as this is considered a housekeeping matter and will allow the owners to sell one of the properties if they so wish.
Thank you. Any questions on that from anyone? Seeing none, all in favor? So passed. Thank you. So item B, Bancroft Business Improvement Area proposed 2022 budget. I'm going to slightly modify this resolution. Am I allowed to do that, Amber, before we put it on the floor?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So be it resolved, the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby receive the Bancroft Business Improvement Area proposed 2022 budget for information purposes only and move to committee of the whole for discussion at a future date. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Caulfield and Deputy Mayor, is there any comments or questions on that? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, thank you. So Amber, I have another question on item C.
Yeah.
So the fire chief had the intention here was the fire chief was going to do a report to accompany this to brief council. Due to many ongoing fires, etc., he was unable to get it done, and we wanted to defer this to our committee of the whole meeting, which is next week, the 21st. Do I have to go through the resolution, or can I just move for a deferral? How does that work?
I think we would read the resolution and then vote on it to defer. Yeah.
So if I go through the resolution, I guess, because the first resolution is to approve. So we really don't want to.
No.
So I'm just want to know what the proper procedure is here. I think we can defer before, as long as it's not tabled.
I want to say yes.
Okay, I'll allow you.
Okay, so if we do that, though, we just make sure that we do not pass the bylaw when we are reading the bylaws at the end.
Okay, we'll do that. So could I have a motion to defer item C to committee of the whole next week? So it can be accompanied by a report from the fire chief. Moved by Councillor Caulfield, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All in favor? So passed. Thank you. Item D, passport policy discussion. Be it resolved, the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby received the report from the Treasurer dated September 14, 2021 regarding the passport policy discussion as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder to put on the table, please? Councillor Tracy McGibbon and Councillor Wiggins. And Bill, would you like to speak to this, please?
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So initially, when I wrote the report to be included in the agenda, just the day before, we were asked for some assistance from some of the boards to perhaps move this forward, this passport policy. And so it was very focused and unilateral. What I'd like to do, Mr. Mayor, is just to expound a little bit on the whole COVID response of the town of Bancroft, just to provide a little bit more context in a broader view. Basically, the way I look at the whole COVID response is we've got three broad categories that I will point to in terms of our defense for our people to keep a safe environment, etc. The first category really is the safety protocols that we have in place, not only at the town, not only at the roads, fire department, across the board, but the boards also. So these have been in place since March 2020. Whether we had closure of the facilities, that includes social distancing, masks, washing hands, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got protocols in place, as everyone already knows. We have protocols in place to help defend and keep a safe environment. So the second category that I'll look at really is then specific to this passport policy. So Ontario put out regulations and press releases relating to requirement as at September the 22nd. We being just the collective we must institute a vaccine passport initiative, basically focusing on higher risk settings, such as restaurants, bars, sports and fitness establishments, et cetera, et cetera. So in reality, the only venue that we have at the town of Bancroft, after doing some research, we formulated a local team here just to really kind of like bring this issue forward in terms of what our exposure is and really try to narrow it down. So the only venue that we really have is the arena. There could be others construed as well, but the library, not necessary, just based on the releases and the regulations. Museum, not so. The other boards, not so. But the arena definitely is in a higher risk situation. So this passport initiative really implicates them. And so we've had some interaction with the arena manager over the course of the last 2 to 3 days. So basically on September the 22nd, as it stands right now, patrons will need to prove that they are properly vaccinated before they enter the facility. Obviously, initially, obviously there's human rights, medical exemptions, those aspects that will be part of this as well. So initially, September the 22nd, they must offer proof. It'll be paper proof at first. In terms of, they've been double vaccinated plus 14 days, and also provide photo ID as part of the authentication process. So the province of Ontario is also working toward building apps and tools. So for example, the arena will have an app individuals will have an app if as a convenience, so that the arena could enter a QR code for that individual, and it'll just come up as a pass or fail. That's kind of a later thing. So we have been working for the arena. It's still very much a work in process. Kind of what we're thinking now, just as a possibility, and certainly it needs to go through the arena board. I'm just giving you kind of like current discussions. The OMHA has come out with protocols and a policy that are reasonable. We need to look at them more, but something the arena could adopt. It's very, of course, like acute and focused on arenas across. So we're reviewing that and trying to assist the arena where we can on that. So it's a bit of a work in process. So that's the passport policy, really just focused on the arena. And it's a bit of a work in process, as I said. The third category, and Mr. Mayor, of course, you alluded to this in your opening introductory comments. Third category is really is instituting potentially a vaccination policy. And basically the objective is of that is to ensure a safe work environment by understanding the vaccination status of various employees and responding appropriately to ensure accommodation and proper protocols are in place. And Mr. Mayor, as you alluded to, we hope to take direction from the county on that aspect. So that also will become a work in process. And I believe they have something going forward tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, in terms of a report. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's my report.
Thank you. You are correct. There is a special county council meeting tomorrow morning, and I believe it's for purposes of the vaccine policy. So we'll see what comes out of that. Any questions or comments on that from anybody? Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the report? So passed. Thank you. Item E, legal indemnification of town employees and councillors. Be it resolved that council pass a bylaw to provide legal indemnification for the payment of costs or damages awarded against an employee or a member of town council and the payment expenses incurred by them as a result of any action or other proceedings arising out of the acts or omissions done or near them in their capacity as an employee or a member of town council. And further, the acting clerk be directed to develop an indemnification agreement entered into by the respective parties in accordance with the bylaw if required. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Wiggins and Councillor Caulfield. And Mr. Treasurer, did you, I believe, can you speak to this as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the purpose of all this, it's really to indemnify town employees and members of council and certain others, volunteers, etc., for damages or costs awarded against individuals, like lawsuits and so forth, as a result of any action or proceeding arising out of, like a third-party claim, etc. So a note, there has been a bylaw that's been included in the agenda package today, which is later on. So the major premise behind all of this is that the employee is acting in good faith, that they're doing their job, they're well trained, there is no shenanigans type of thing, that it's a good faith activity. That's the major premise behind all this. So basically there's like three layers of defense. If there's some sort of a lawsuit or proceeding against an employee, councillor, and other parties. First, in the Municipal Act, it's section 448. That's the first line of defense. Basically, it says that there will be no proceedings for damages made against any councillor, staff, and so, but of course things happen, we're in Canada. Canada's becoming a little closer to the US in terms of these issues, even for frivolous type claims. So even though that's embedded within our Municipal Act, It's been proven looking at other municipalities that there's things that can be attempted to move forward. So that's kind of the first layer of defense, the Municipal Act. The second layer is we have insurance coverages. So if anything should drip through the first layer, we've got insurance coverages. I did reach out to our insurer to better understand that aspect of things, and there's an excerpt from what was provided as one of the reports, and I've been assured by our insurer that we have a very broad and comprehensive program in this regard. Okay, well, that's great. However, if anything should drip through there, what I'm proposing is a third and final layer of defense, and that would be with this indemnification that I've provided through the recommendations and bylaw today. We've had a few instances here that gave me cause, nothing untoward at all, but just gave me cause to kind of understand this whole personal liability aspect better at the town. I used through our lawyers, our law firm, I used their assistance, and a lot of the structure of what I've provided, especially the bylaw, is something that has been instituted at the City of Peterborough as well. So, and anything that I've put through today, whether it be a report or the actual bylaw, it has been also reviewed by our external counsel. And so, Mr. Mayor, that's what I put forth to you today and council.
Thank you. Is there any questions on that? So, Bill, I do have one. So it says here in the resolution to provide legal indemnification for the payment of costs or damages awarded against an employee or member of town council, and the payment, I guess I should say, of expenses incurred by them. Would we, I know it's probably somewhat implied in that payment of expenses, but would we not be providing legal representation through our insurer?
Yeah, and what the bylaw specifically states is insurance comes first.
Okay.
So this is the very last line of defense. The bylaw specifically states that any insurance that we will approach and will engage our insurer initially, and we do believe we have a great policy. That will be something that will be handled by the insurance company. However, in the rare event that there is some gaps or some unknown, unforeseen circumstances, then it points down to the indemnification that we put forward to you today.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wiggins.
I was under the impression that we already had this in place, so obviously I was wrong. So I surely it's time we had this for sure.
Yeah, we did a massive search through our historical archives and so forth, both the acting clerk and others, close to the situation. And there might have been there's potentially a one-off that we did for a specific instance, but otherwise we definitely could not see any generic indemnification as we're providing today.
Thank you. Thanks for looking at it.
Okay. Item F, solar agreement for the arena. So the resolution before us is, whereas the solar agreement attached to the staff report dated September 14, 2021 between Otter Energy and the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is a conditional agreement. And whereas Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft will have the opportunity to accept or reject the agreement in the future prior to execution. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby approved that the acting clerk enter into the conditional solar agreement as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Wiggins and Councillor Miles. And Bill, would you like to talk on this one as well, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So the town some time ago perhaps it was 4 or 5 months ago or thereabouts, was approached by a solar energy company that had a potential solution for our arena. And so the town formed a team with staff and select councillors to review this opportunity. It appeared that it's possible to save between $50,000 and $70,000 per year, and perhaps beyond that, in electrical savings, electrical costs, just to save that. These savings would absolutely substantially improve our the financial sustainability of the arena. The gross project ultimately would be around $1.3 million with the possibility of a grant, which if received would result in a net spend by the municipality of around $250,000. So we would incur debt and it would be repaid through electrical savings via the arena. So staff is recommending that council approve the conditional agreement that's before us, so that we can further evaluate the projects, not go forward with the project wholesale, but allow us to further evaluate aspects of it. So all that we are committing to today is potentially spending $11,000 to $12,000 for this solar energy company to develop the application for the grant and to provide an engineering structural review to make sure that we can actually go forward with it, load bearing and other aspects of it. So this actual spending, the $11,000 to $12,000, will only be triggered if we do not go forward with the execution of the whole agreement, the construction and so forth. So otherwise, the important thing to know is this is a conditional agreement. It's conditional on having a favorable engineering report. It's conditional on a successful grant application that we actually are going to receive the grant. But in addition to that, we have an opt-out clause that if council does not approve the go forward of this project at a later date, it'll be terminated, dropped, all done, that's it. And again, if that's the case, then those $11,000 to $12,000 worth of costs will arise at that point, which will be a 2022 item anyway. So I'm really excited because kind of our objective view is it's really going to help to support the sustainability, financial sustainability at the arena. And we do have more due diligence as part of this process yet to be uncovered, more than I just provided now. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council.
Thank you, Bill. Just before I go to you, Councillor Miles, aside from the financial savings, I think if you look at this investigation of solar, if you look at the next item that's on the agenda with the food recycler, if you look further down into the consent agenda, there's a report from FCM on basically greening of municipalities. I mentioned in my comments last month that I felt it was time that the town embarked on more of a program with respect to environmental climate change aspects that are in our process. And coincidentally, as I say, a report is coming forward. So I'm also excited to see it, and hopefully the numbers pan out in the end. So Councillor Wiggins, you had your hand up.
No.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Miles, I'm sorry.
No, thanks, Mr. Merrill. Thanks, Bill. Well, this is awesome. I'm fully in support of this. I think it's an incredible project. I think at the end of the day, it ticks off all kinds of boxes that are good for our municipality. Just a nuanced question, sort of. So will the debt appear on the books of the arena, or does the debt appear on the books of town?
Yes. Actually, I did know that answer last week.
I know.
I was actually going back and forth. I was actually going back and forth with the auditors on that, and as the I would like to say, well, the asset will be an arena asset. The debt will be a town debt. And it's important to note that it will not be a burden on the tax levy. It will not be a burden on our constituents. It will be paid, repatriated through arena electrical cost savings.
Yeah, thank you. Your report clearly states that. So it's very, very good. It was just a question in my head about thinking how, it will all reside. That's all. No, it'll totally pay for itself. It'll generate money in no time at all. 5 years or less, maybe it'll completely pay for what our responsibilities have been to put it there. And this is green. This is no footprint. This is future energy. This is awesome.
And also just to note that if we should elect to go forward with it, staff, and we bring forward, the next report that we would bring forward would be a lot more in depth, so that you very intimately understand, from the technical aspect, just the real nuts and bolts.
Thank you. Anyone else? All in favor? So passed. Thank you. Next item up is food cycler electric composter pilot project. Resolution before us, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft has hereby received a report from Perry Kelly, Manager of Public Works, dated September 14, 2021, regarding the electric composter pilot project as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Wiggins and Councillor Miles. So the report's pretty self-explanatory. Perry, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to it before I open it up to council members. There he is. Okay.
Good afternoon, Mayor Jenkins and members of council and staff. No, I don't believe we need to add anything to it. Like you said, it's pretty self-explanatory, and I think it's a very good program for us as we're trying to move forward with our waste site and the waste site tipping phase.
So, Councillor Wiggins, would you like to comment on, your experience with it? I've also had it on a trial basis, but I think you can cover the comments for both you and I.
Okay, certainly I will. This is another addition to our trying to combustible compost stuff that goes in the garbage. Roughly 80% of the garbage we put out can be decomposed in your backyard or one of these items. This is a great little item, kind of reminds you of a bread maker, and there's another cylinder goes inside it, takes liters of scrap food waste. You turn it on at night, you get up in the morning, you have 3 or 4 cups full of organic byproduct that you can use to put in your flowers, on your lawn, or whatever. I think it's a great item and can't wait to get one. We had a meeting and through our committee had many questions asked and answered for us. And one of them was to let us try one. So it came to town. I did use it for a couple of days. I know our mayor used it for a couple of days. I'm not just sure where it is now, but eventually it'll wind up in our town office for all the staff to use it. Thank you.
So it's actually sitting over at the town office for Perry for you to pick up. I did use it. It's pretty incredible how you fill the basket. You can pretty well fill it in a day at this time of year with all the fresh fruit and vegetables that are out there. And in the morning, it's, it's probably a 20-to-1 reduction, and you end up with sort of a dry powder type of thing that so it's quite amazing how much it reduces what goes into your garbage can, et cetera. And as the manager of public works will attest, one of the major issues facing landfills in respect to methane gas, et cetera, is, compostables, et cetera. So the more that we can get out of our landfill, the better off we are. So do you want to add anything to that, Perry?
Just that, you're always skeptical when you see a product like this, but when you see how it does reduce that by 20-to-1 or more, it's just a real wise investment for anybody, especially in the urban areas. We get into some development that's coming with the new apartment buildings. It's a real positive, and not only does it just help with the tip and face, but there's so many other positive aspects too. The carbon footprint, and how often we're going around collecting waste. If we can reduce that and put our resources into other areas that are more prevalent, then I definitely think it's a real win. And when we were speaking with the person that did the presentation for us, as noted in my report, the offer is for 36 at the current program that's out right now. And if it's successful, which I know it will be, we can have that same program for another 36 units itself as well. And, thanks to members of our council and yourself, Mr. Mayor, for trying this out and, help support the report brought forward.
Thank you. Councillor Barry McGibbon.
Yeah, do you know if they have a commercial version of this thing? Like, I just think of our local restaurants. I watch the garbage man go by, and some of the bags of garbage the poor guy can hardly lift. And you know what it's full of. It's full of food, and I just thought this might really help. That situation.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because I was thinking the same thing. If there's a large-scale version of this anywhere, or even from another company, because yeah, you're exactly right. It's great for a household, but it wouldn't probably work in a restaurant, et cetera, because you would be filling it many times a day, and it takes 6 to 8 hours for it to to go through its cycle, So yeah,
We did ask that question at one of the previous meetings with the group that's presenting it, and they at this time do not have a large one for, as you say, large or a complex of like apartment buildings. So down the road that they are looking at that, if I remember right, Perry, I think that's what they said. But right now it's not available with this company anyway. And anyway, I think it's a great little deal for sure.
Thank you. Hey, anyone else with a comment? Seeing none, all in favor? So passed. Thank you. Next item is item H, Veolia Town of Bancroft contract. Be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby direct the Manager of Public Works to provide notice to Veolia Canada Inc. of the Town of Bancroft's intention to renew the agreement by extending the current agreement for 5 years. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Barry McGibbon, Councillor Caulfield. So Perry, could you go over that, please? The report was pretty self-explanatory about the price negotiations, et cetera. So we're not committing based on this, it's to move forward. So could you explain that, please?
No, so what happens now with this process, and imagine how time flies, because we're in year 4 of our contract with Veolia. And in the service agreement that we have signed formally with Veolia and the Town of Bancroft, we have until the end of September of 2021 to state our intentions as per the contract. And if we're going to a full RFP process again at the end of the current contract, which ends September 30th, 2022, or if we'd like to ask for a 5-year extension. So this is like a step process. So we follow our obligations. We ask for the 5-year service agreement extension as per, and then we wait for Veolia to respond to it. Once they respond to it, whether they say yes, no, or indifferent, then we either sign and say we're good for another 5 years, or if there's some price points that needed to be discussed from Veolia's end or from our end, then this is the opportunity for us to clean the agreement up and have negotiations with Veolia at that time. Be rest assured that I would imagine that like everything else, there will be increases coming, but I will keep our council abreast of what's going on so that we can have probably, I would say, some closed session discussions moving forward once we once we know what Veolia's intentions are at that time. So right today is just asking for approval from council to send a letter of intent to Veolia asking for a 5-year extension.
Thank you. Any other questions for Harry? Seeing none, all in favor? So passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item I, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. I will read the resolution before us. Whereas the Truth and Reconciliation Commission released its final report on June 2nd, 2015, which includes 94 calls to action to redress the legacy of residential schools and advance the process of Canadian reconciliation. And whereas the recent discovery of remains and unmarked graves across Canada have led to increased calls for all levels of government to address the recommendations in the Commission's calls to action. And whereas all Canadians and all orders of government have a role to play in reconciliation. And whereas recommendation number 80 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission called upon the federal government in collaboration with Aboriginal peoples to establish a statutory holiday, a National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, to ensure that public commemoration of the history and legacy of residential schools remains a vital component of the reconciliation process. And whereas the federal government has announced September 30th, 2021 as the first National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, National Orange Shirt Day, and a statutory holiday, therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of Town of Bancroft is hereby commit to recognizing September 30th, 2021 as a National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, National Orange Shirt Day, by sharing the stories of residential school survivors, families, and communities. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Barry McGibbon, and seconded by Councillor Miles. Any discussion on this? So if people have been reading, there's obviously confusion over what a statutory holiday means and how it's coming forward. I see some provinces have declared it, and I don't believe the province of Ontario has as of yet. So I'm really not sure what it means as far as what we traditionally think is a statutory holiday. So I guess there's more information to follow on this. So how this would be celebrated and whether it's viewed as a traditional, statutory holiday such as, Victoria Day, others, etc. So unless somebody else has something that I don't know, but I was just reading on it yesterday and then I haven't really got a real clear view on this, uptake on what the province of Ontario is doing. So anyway, if there's no other discussion, all in favor, please. So passed. Thank you. Okay, item J, proclamation of October as Dress Purple Month. So the resolution is, whereas providing child abuse is a responsibility we all share, and whereas children's aid societies and Indigenous child well-being societies are community-based organizations that provide protection and support services to children and youth up to the age of 18 across Ontario. And whereas with the help of community partners, children's aid societies deliver services that support and strengthen families. And whereas children's aid societies work first and foremost to keep families together, and in about 97% of CAS investigations, child protection services are provided while the child or youth lives with their family. In rare instances that Children's Aid Society removes children from their home, 85% of those children return to their families within 36 months. And whereas Highland Shores Children's Aid, in partnership with the Children's Foundation, will be distributing purple ribbons throughout the communities they serve, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Bancroft is hereby proclaim October as Dress Purple Month, and further the Council is hereby approve of Highland Shores Children's Aid's request to tie purple ribbons in Bancroft's downtown area. Could I have a mover and a seconder on this? Councillor Tracy McGibbon and Deputy Mayor, would anybody like to comment on this, please? So seeing none, every year they usually do come and do a presentation to us. I guess with the COVID situation or have it online, they haven't done it this year, but I think we all recognize the invaluable work that Children's Aid does, and most certainly support them in just endeavor to provide recognition. So all in favor of accepting, please? Thank you. So pass. Notice of motion. None. So consent agenda. So this is an extremely long one. Before I read it, is there anything that anybody would like to have pulled out? Councillor Wiggins.
I like the one on the green program.
Okay, so that is, hang on, let's find it here. That's item Q, towards low carbon communities, creating municipal green development standards. So that's an excellent document. And yes, let's pull that one out.
And the other one would be connecting links.
Yes, and the connecting links. So hang on, I've got to write this down. So that's Q.
And W.
Q and W. Okay. I'll go back and read it. So be it resolved that the items listed under the consent agenda, items 13B to 13X, with the exception of items Q and W, be received by the corporation of the town of Bancroft for information purposes. Moved by Councillor Miles and seconded by Councillor Caulfield. All in favor? So be it. So going down to item Q, elemental Q. So Councillor, unless, do you like me to, what I thought here, Councillor Wiggins, is that if we could take this item and have it sent to committee of the whole for discussion and review there, would you be okay with that?
Yeah, I would. I think it would tie in with our green program.
Okay, would you like to make that motion then?
I would, that we move Q, item Q, to our committee of the whole on the 24th for further discussion.
Okay, I think it's the 21st actually, isn't it?
21st time. Sorry about that.
Yeah, okay. Well, you can go on the 24th. Nobody will be there, but you can go.
Well, that was my note. That was the last one I was at. Sorry.
Could I have a seconder on that, please? Councillor Miles, all in favor? Thank you. And item W, which is the Ministry of Transportation Connecting Links Program. I guess that one we might send to committee of the whole as well. Are we okay with that?
I would agree.
Are you okay with that one? You want to make that motion then, Barry?
I'm good with that, yeah.
What's that?
I'd like to bring it to committee of whole, but I can't make that motion, I don't think.
Right, so I'm
Yeah.
asking, so Councillor Barry McGibbon is making that motion and
Yeah,
second
I
by?
understand Perry or Barry. I was
Yeah, oh,
confused.
no, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll
The guy
make
with
that
the
motion.
glasses and the beard. We'll make that motion, okay?
Yeah,
And second it by? Councillor Wiggins, all in favor? Thank you, pass. Okay. Consent agenda items for support. Number 14, item A. Be resolved, the Council of the Corporation Town of Bancroft is here to support the items listed under consent agenda items 14B to 14C, and further that a letter of support be prepared to the appropriate ministries, organizations outlining council's support. So we'll put it on the table first. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Wiggins, Councillor Miles. So the two items of the town of Cochrane, the men's PSA testing, and the municipality of Chatham-Kent affordable internet. Any comments on those? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. I'm looking forward to the day that we can actually do something with item 15, community announcements and events. Now,
I have one community announcement that I can
well, there's
make.
actually two that I can think of, so you go ahead with your one.
Okay, well, it's the fact that minor hockey is starting to roll under the restrictions of COVID. And along with that, we have our Rockhound junior hockey team back in action. They're going to be going towards the middle of October, I believe. Is that right, Councillor Miles? I'm thinking around there. Anyway, so we will have some entertainment coming to town that people can get out. Just remember, it'll be COVID restricted, of course.
Okay, that wasn't one I had in mind, but let's see, Councillor Miles, you have one or two.
Well, not necessarily something that's a scheduled event, just a review and a reminder about, you know, the beautiful scenery behind me in my backdrop here. I've been up to the Eagle's Nest this season a couple of times as I've had guests come into the community, and it's just stunning up there. We should be carrying so much pride about what that little park is and what all of those walking trails are and what that park means to our community. It has been consistently busy every time I have been there, and all of the work that staff has done getting the washrooms looked after and having that parking lot and just the way it all is presented, it is outside. And so don't hesitate to continue to visit the Eagle's Nest. There are ways that you can make donations to the Eagle's Nest so easily. They set up an incredible QR program. You walk up, you scan your phone, fire. If you use PayPal, boom, it goes right away. If you want to put in a credit card, you can. So they're looking for donations to help support the park. And I just was reminded, because I was there a couple of times this season, about what a stunning asset it is. And I would just like to remind our community that it's there and to continue to use it.
So you sort of, the segue into that, which is a community event, is the grand opening is, of course, on September 24th. Councillor Wiggins will be representing the town. Chief Hoover, I'm sure, will be up there with along with his staff who did all of the work on that. And so we also must, in addition to thanking our Parks and Rec, is the stewards of the Eagle's Nest for all the work that they've done. And I'm looking forward to the day that we can expand those trails onto the M&R property and beyond. But, you know, they are nice, the trails that we have, but it certainly would be nice to even to have them go further. So that was the one. The other item, which Councillor Tracy McGibbon will be attending on behalf of council, is the Mosaic project. And Chief Hoover, we see all the work that you've done on the park there. Maybe can you sort of tell us where it's at and what's still to come before the opening? I believe they're going to be on site for a few days actually doing it. So maybe you could fill us in, please.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Next week, you're going to see some more activity there at the Millennium Park at the southern end of the entrance area there. They will be, the Red Dress production group will be in place to actually set the mosaic pattern that was developed and done over the summer at the park. They had a 1 or 2 day event there where they placed the rocks in and to build the mosaic picture. So they will be there starting September the 20th, working at installing the individual triangle pieces to make up the circle and get it mounted, and a curb poured around it to secure it there. And then some minor granular work done by our staff. And then Friday, September the 24th, will be the official unveiling of that component there. So yeah, a good project that's come to fruition there at the end of Millennium Park. Will add to our walking trail system there, and as well be a prominent symbol out for public display there as well.
So thank you. Anybody else with anything else? See, we didn't think we had any. There we had 2 or 3. So there you go. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So bylaws. So Amber, you tell me when I get to the one I'm supposed to not read. Okay.
So it's actually the first one, 70/2021.
Yeah, I knew that. I was testing you. Okay. Okay, so be it resolved that the following bylaws be introduced and read a first, second, and third time to be finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk do sign and seal the same. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding. Bylaw number 71-2021 being a bylaw to authorize the corporation of the town of Bancroft to enter into a contract agreement with Drain Brothers Excavating Limited. Bylaw number 72-2021 being a bylaw to authorize the corporation of the town of Bancroft to enter into a transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Bylaw number 73-2021 being a bylaw to authorize the corporation of the town of Bancroft to enter into a transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Bylaw number 74-2021 being a bylaw bylaw dedicating assuming lands as a common and public highway. Bylaw number 75-2021 being a bylaw to provide legal indemnification for the payment of costs or damages awarded against an employee or member of town council during their term on council or their employment with the town while acting under legitimate instructions or attempting to perform their duties in good faith. Could I have a mover and a seconder on that, please? Councillor Caulfield and Deputy Mayor, all in favor, please. So passed. Thank you. Moving down, I guess that's it. We have a closed session of council. So the resolution before us, moving into closed session, be it resolved that the council of the corporation of the town of Bancroft is hereby move into closed session pursuant to the Municipal Act SO 2001, Section 239, 2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality. General nature, upcoming retirement and facility negotiations. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Miles, seconded by Councillor Barry McGibbon.